Okay, I think we have got this. Finally. Hi Pam, I am glad to see you. Sorry, we were having a bit of technical difficulties, and that's typical for Facebook. All right, we shall get started. Hey, it's Shel Anderson from Shel's Creative Corner and Shel Anderson Designs in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. I blog at shelscreativecorner.blogspot.com. My email address is andersonshell@gmail.com, and I can also be reached by phone at any time. I would like to thank you for joining me today. This live is called By Request. The two cards that we are going to be making today are actually requests that I've had that people were interested in seeing how to do them. So that's what we're going to be doing today. All right. As per normal, we have our tip of the day. Every time I do a video, I'm giving you a tip for your tip book. Hey Denise, glad you could join me. Great to see ya. Tip number 3, how to eliminate waste when you're punching your designer series paper and cardstock. Now I'm just going to grab a punch and show you. All right, let's for instance take this pine tree punch. If I was to punch it here, I would have to go all the way over to here when I did my second punch, okay? But if I did it here, and then I had cut this paper off here, let's just do that quickly. So I have my first one. Now I'm going to angle in my second one. And if you just keep rotating your paper as you go, holy, it's getting away from me. If you keep rotating your paper as you go, basically you're going to have very, very little waste, and you're going to get more punches out of your piece of paper. So when you're doing punches, especially if you're making multiples, make sure that you stop for a minute and take a look at your punch and see how you're going to get the best, the most amount of punches out of your piece of paper that you're using. All right, that is tip number 3. Today we are going to be making 2 cards, and we are going to be using a whole bunch of dies. So I have pulled out my sheets that show you. This is the So Many Snowflake dies, and these are absolutely gorgeous. They're found on page 38 of the holiday catalog, and it has 2 dies that will cut a window. This one cuts a window, and this one just cuts a design into your paper so that you could put a different color behind to make the design show. And then the rest of these actually cut out the snowflakes. So we're going to be using those dies. We're also going to be using the stitched shape dies found on page 183. And this is just 4 of each shape, and they would can stack one on top of the other. So if you wanted to put your greeting here and use this as your mat layer, it would layer perfectly. We're also going to be using the stitched rectangles. Now this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 double stitched rectangle shapes, and then it has 1, 2, 3, 5 of the single stitched rectangles. These 2 die sets right here are worth their weight in gold, in my opinion. I use them all the time. And the final die set that we're going to be using is the Forever Flourishing dies. This goes with the Forever Fern bundle or suite. I think there's both. That's found on page 110 of the annual catalog. Okay, so now you've had a quick look at that. I am going to get the basket front and center, have all the items that I'm going to need, and we will get started. All right. So, we're actually making 3 cards today because this little bundle here is going to make us 3 cards. And this is the layering circle technique. I'll pull this in here so you will have a screenshot of the things that I'm using. I'm using Balmy Blue 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. The Snowflake DSP, Snowflake Splendor DSP 4 by 5 1/4. I'm using Pacific Point, Highland Heather, and Balmy Blue cardstock with the stitched shape dies, and I'm using some glimmer paper. So we've all seen this probably numerous times, and it's not a difficult technique by any stretch of the imagination. However, it is, I have some tips for you that is going to help you out with this. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to put our DSP down on our card front. That's just going to be the backdrop for all this goodness that we're going to be doing. There we go. Card base number 1. And card base number 2. I love the Pacific Point that I chose to go with this DSP. All right, so I put one together already to show you what it's going to look like when we put it on the card. Basically, I cut one of each of the circles, of the stitch circles, and I made sure, this is tip number 1, is to make sure that your large and your small circles, you use the same color. Okay? And basically what I did is I cut all my circles in half, and here's tip number 2, when you glue them on, offset them to one side. Okay, doesn't matter which side, but offset them to one side. Okay, so this one here we're going to put together. So I will set this one all over here, and I also use the stitched rectangles to do a little greeting. This one says celebrate the season. So we are going to pop that right on that beautiful Pacific Point. All right, so basically what I'm going to do with my first card is I'm going to simply line it back up this way, and I'm going to use my greeting like so. My fingers out of the way. Doesn't that look cool? And it's all just cutting it in half and offsetting the circles. All right, so which card do I want this one on? I think the Balmy Blue. Okay, so let's get this placed on the card front. Now it's not going to look very pretty underneath because of course it doesn't match. but you're not going to see that because we're going to put the greeting tag over the top. And yes, I'm putting lots of adhesive on here. And popping that down there. All right. And this one is going the same. Just match your edges up on either side. And then, yeah, I think I want this flat. I was debating whether I wanted it on dimensionals or not, but because we're using this to cover that seam, I'm going to put that right bang on. And no dimensionals because I was worried that you might see the seam. And then I've taken, oh, I've got ink on me. I've taken the beautiful balmy blue glimmer paper and some silver foil, and I've cut 3 of the snowflakes, and I have just used glue dots to put those together. And now I am going to use a dimensional to put that beautiful snowflake in that empty spot. And I am going to grab, if I can find it, I have them here somewhere. I'm going to grab some rhinestones, and because we have some bling on there, we gotta add some more. And I am just going to put a little rhinestone in some of these snowflakes. Just popping it in the center. Just to give a little blingy blingy. And I think that's good. Now I haven't got that card lined yet, but that gives you an idea right there of how easy that technique is. It's all in leaning to one side when you glue it together. All right, we're going to grab our second card and we're going to do this one together. I just need to burnish this a little bit so it lays flatter. All right, I'm going to bring all these pieces in and we'll put these together. And the greetings that I chose for these cards, both of these greetings, I'll show you the stamp set. It is a fabulous, fabulous, fabulous stamp set. I got that on there crooked. It is called Itty Bitty Christmas. If you don't have this one, you should. It has greetings for any Christmas occasion that you can imagine, and they're not overly big, so they'll fit in punches, they'll fit in small dies. You can do a small greeting and layer it up with bigger die cuts behind it. It's fabulous. And it is on page, it doesn't give me a page number. It is in the annual catalog. Item number is 150513. Thanks, Pam. All right, so now we're going to have some fun. I'm going to show you how easy it is to put these together. So I'm just going to lean this. I'm just trying to match up the edge here as best I can and just inside the stitching. And then we're going to go on to the next one, same thing. Your straight edge, try to keep it as level as you can. Sometimes you can't be perfect, but it will all work out in the end. Oops, wrong side up. There we go. And that's how easy it is to do that. All right, simple, simple, simple. Sometimes we look at things and we think, oh, that's gorgeous, but I can't do that. But when you break it down and you see it done, it's easy peasy. All right, I got to think this out. Yes, this way. Like so. And our last one. All right. Now, for this card, I am going to do it a bit different. I am going to offset them. Like so. How cool is that? Kind of funky wonky. Now, I'm going to need a piece to go across, so I don't know whether I want the Highland Heather or the silver or both. I think I'm going to go with both. I do. All right. So I need 5 1/4. Yes, 5 1/4. I was second guessing myself for a moment. 8 1/2 by 5 1/2. Scored at 4 1/4. So the longest piece would be 5 1/4 to match my DSP. So this needs to be 5 1/4 as well. Perfect. I can get it picked up. All right, we'll take that out of the way. Okay, Denise, bye-bye. Thanks for stopping in. All right, so the first one, we are going to just simply get our adhesive on these pieces, and we are going to pop it down. And then the same thing, only we're going to make sure that our sides are going to be closely matched. And then I'm going to have to switch to Tombow here to get my foil piece on my Highland Heather piece. There we go. Just need to give it a little haircut. And then this, and I made that crooked. There we go. Then this piece is going to cover that seam up, okay? So I am going to put adhesive in the middle. Well, if I can get this thing turned around right. And I'm going to put a mini dimensional on each end, just because it's going down a little bit. I want to take up that gap, if you know what I mean. Like these are high, so the papers, this strip's going to sit on these, but here there's not going to be anything underneath it. So I want to make sure that it takes up that gap a little bit. All right. just like that. Now that's not going anywhere. Okay, so now we get to decorate. And I'm thinking this big, beautiful snowflake can go smack dab in the middle. I mean, you could set it off to the side if you wish, and the greeting up here. But I think I'm going to put the greeting down there, and this snowflake right in the middle. All right, almost done. I think I'll use dimensionals on this. Just like so. And of course I got it crooked. There we go. So there we have our 2 layering circle cards. And I don't know what you call this, but I'm calling it the layering circle technique. All right, that is our first set of cards. I just need to do a little cleanup here, and we will move on to card number 2. Okay, so this one is with the Forever Fern bundle, and I'm just going to grab some supplies here that we're going to need and get rid of my basket. I just don't have, thank you Pam, I appreciate that. I just don't have enough room here to have too much stuff on my desktop at one time. So the Forever Flourishing dies, we are actually not using the dies today. I just wanted to bring out the dies so that you could see that how they went with the stamp set. So this card is, I should bring in my supply list for you. It's called the Partial Border Technique. And the supplies that I have for today is Pretty Peacock. It's 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. Then I have a soft sea foam that is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And I have a Whisper White that is 3 3/4 by 5. Pam, I'm looking at my screen and it looks like I'm out of focus. Is it out of focus for you? Okay, I'll continue on. And also you're going to need a piece of cardstock that's 5/8 of an inch smaller than your white piece. Oh, it's in and out, so it must be a Facebook thing. Okay, the basic black piece that I've chosen was just a piece of scrap. It can be any color. It needs to be 5/8 of an inch smaller than your white. So for this card, it is 3 1/8 by 4 3/8. Okay. And we are going to be using Soft Sea Foam, Garden Green, and Pretty Peacock inks with some blending brushes. And then we're going to have some bling after a bit here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to put this Soft Sea Foam piece on the front of my card base, right off the hop. And that way it is out of my way, and hopefully I won't get any ink on it. Okay, I'm going to set that aside, and we are going to bring in our silicone mat and our blending brushes. So what I'm going to do is this. I am going to build a partial border around the outside of this card stock. So basically this piece here is going to be a mask. But when I do this, I am going to be using 3 different colors of ink. I'm going to start at my lightest color, which is the soft seafoam, go to garden green, and then to pretty peacock. So how I'm going to do this is this mask that we're using, you're going to have to hold it in place. You do not want your mask to move. Now, if you wanted to put temporary adhesive, well, we can probably do that. I have some. Just to make life a little bit easier, you can very easily do that. To pop this in place, and we're going to try to center that like so. Now that's going to help keep that in place. So I'm going to load up my brush with the soft sea foam, and I need a little piece of scrap. There's a good piece, just to take off the and I'm just working my way, and you want to go from about the 3/4-ish mark and in. Alright, I'm going to do the same thing in the bottom corner here. Okay, and then I'm just going to brush that brush off, and I'm going to go into the garden green. And you can see that's a much starker color, so just a very light touch. And take your time to build the color up. Because you don't want any blobs. Alright, I need to clean that off as best I can, because unfortunately I have to go back into my soft sea foam because I didn't go out far enough here. There we go. That's better. And you just basically add and blend until you're happy with it. All right, clean that one off, and now we're going into the pretty peacock, and that is where we're going to have our most intense color is in the corners, And as you can see, I just went off my paper and onto my desktop, so I'll have to clean that up. Okay. And now we'll go back up to the top here and do the same thing. I gotta dry my hands. Sorry about that. All right. And the same thing here. Okay. I'm happy with that, but I think I'm going to go back into the garden green. Oops, almost went in the wrong one. Did you see that? All right, I think I'm happy with that. Except for right here. All right, I'm good with that. And basically with those brushes, I just put them in a bucket of soapy water. I'll clean them out when I'm done here, and then we will simply dry them with the bushel side down so that the water dries out of the brush. Some people have a brush for every color family, like every pink, every red, every yellow. I don't have that many brushes, so I have to clean mine. Woo! Runaway train. Okay, let's get these put away and out of my way. And wash off my fingers and check this out. How pretty is that? And this is what we are going to stamp our card on. All right, we will put this in our Stamparatus because I do not, after putting all that work into this, I do not want to mess this up. I still have a little bit of temporary adhesive on here I have to get off before I stamp. Okay. And I am going to bring in this one. And I'm just going to bring in this one for placement. Yeah. Perhaps I'm going to stamp this one first. I think I will be better off that way. All right, so I just put all my inks away. That was pretty stupid, wasn't it? Pretty peacock. We are going to stamp this first image in Pretty Peacock. And be prepared to ooh and ah. I have another sample for you when we're done here that I did in different colors. Oh, look at that. That's exactly what happened on my last card. The dark color, when I stamped it, it was just like, oh, wow. All right, we're going to clean this stamp and get it off the Stamparatus. And we're going to bring in these long skinny leaves, and I am going to stamp those in soft sea foam and see what it looks like. If I don't like it, we can always move it up to the garden green, but I would rather start light and work my way up. Oh, look at that. That's pretty. What do you think? Dark enough? I think so. Oops, runaway stamp. All right, I'm going to move this and stamp this one kind of like so. And these stamps actually have the detail right in the stamps. The stamps basically do the work for us. So you gotta love that. All right, I just need to dry that a bit because I don't need any watermarks on my paper. And my last one is gonna come down like so. Beautiful. I'm happy with that. It's a little bit different than my sample that I made before, but that's okay. Variety is good. All right, so now we need to have a greeting. I think I am going to choose, we're going to need that as well. Let's see how much space we have down here at the bottom. You can choose Love and Laughter Forever After, so that would be kind of like for a wedding. Or you can do this, Hello, or To a Friend That Makes Me Smile. I think I'm going to choose the friend one. And I'm just going to center that right in the bottom hole there. And I am going to choose the Pretty Peacock ink. Pretty Peacock. Oh, I'm not happy with that. It's a little globby. This ink pad is so juicy. Let's see if that looks better. To a Friend That Makes Me Smile. All right. So we have one thing left to do on this. What do you think? It's turning out pretty cool, eh? The border just makes it pop. The thing we have left to do is, in this stamp set, there's this little, I don't know whether you can see it here, it's like a little texture stamp. And we need to add some texture dots. But I'm not sure what color I want. I think I'm going to go with the garden green because we don't have a whole lot of that color in here. I hope I'm right in choosing this color. And I just got ink all over my edge, so I have to start again. All right. Yep, it was a good choice. And I am just stamping this all over sporadically, like so. That's it. It just adds a little bit of interest to the front of the card, and I think if I had chosen the lighter color, it would have just got lost. And I think the pretty peacock would have been too much. All right, so let's get this out of the way, and let's bring in our card base. I'm going to give this a second to dry before I turn it over. I don't want to smudge it. All right, I'm going to use Tombow because I need a little bit of wiggle room to get this on straight. Almost the end of the row for this bottle. All righty, make sure we're opening on the right side. Check that out. How pretty is that? Can you see it? I know my camera. Video interrupted. All right, there is our card, and here is the sample that I made earlier using pinks. And the pinks that I chose were Flirty Flamingo, Blushing Bride, and what was the third one? Flirty Flamingo, Blushing Bride, and I wrote it down. Oh, Petal Pink. So Petal Pink, Blushing Bride, and Flirty Flamingo. And this was Garden Green, Pretty Peacock, and Soft Seafoam. So there's those two. And there's our two layering circles. So I hope that helps you girls out who were looking for learning how to do that. That's what I have for you today. I thank you for joining me. Oops. And I hope to be back again on Tuesday night. Bye-bye for now.